Okay. All right. We're recording. Okay. Welcome to the walk off. This is our first episode on Zoom. So a lot of great stuff coming. We don't have to go by radio restrictions anymore, which I know me and Anthony are very happy about,
That's true. Very true.
especially after getting kicked off that one time, which we don't want to talk about. But sure better than that. Um, so we're sorry about the delay. Some things happened with my family that just couldn't have the show go, but we will be live on a regular scheduled timeline from now on. Uh, whatever works for the both of us, we'll figure that out sooner or later. But we have so much baseball to talk about. Yesterday, the Rays got killed 20-1 by the Blue Jays, and Vlad hit a grand slam. It's insane that they only scored one run in the entire thing.
That is
But
very insane. Yes.
very
It
crazy.
shows
So
how good of a team they are.
exactly. And I thought, now listen, I definitely could have said this earlier, but I knew they were going to kind of cool down. Like the Pirates have definitely gone ice cold now. They're out, in my eyes at least. They're done. But we'll have to see. Every baseball story has, a new beginning. So we'll see.
Yeah,
So
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if I call the Pirates done yet.
really?
Uh,
Okay.
I I I think I still like their talent. Maybe I was a little premature saying that they might be a wild card team. Maybe I was a little, you know,
We might
but
have been a little premature.
but I still think that maybe not wild card this year. Maybe I was wrong, but I still think they're going to be competitive. I don't think they're going to be like a pushover team at all.
Okay. I mean, I don't think they'll be like, I think their ceiling right now is third in the Central. I still think Milwaukee, and we're going to talk about it later, but the Red Hot Cardinals are back. Uh, we'll have to see. It's totally up in the air, but I I don't know. They got to the 20 game mark, and I think they won like 21 or 22 games, and then they just hit a wall. Or they might have won 23 games, but they just hit a wall, and then they went from like 23-10 to like 23-18, like that.
Yeah, now they're inching closer to 500 now, and it's 25-24. Still though, I don't know. I mean, the Cardinals, yeah, they played better,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I'm sold that they're gonna like all of a sudden go on a run now and go deep in the playoffs or something. I don't know. That bad stretch still existed. And we'll get into the Mets in a little bit, but the same way the Mets, I mean, I know my fans are freaking out, happy and everything, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy with how they played recently. But I'm not like, I'm not gonna be unrealistic. That bad stretch still happened. So you got the problems are still there. They just played better.
Well, absolutely true. So let's just start talking about that. I mean, we'll get into what happened this week later, but right now, I mean, the Mets had they just couldn't win a series. They lost to the Reds. And then the Rays come into town. I thought it was going to be like a typical, another one of those series for the Mets, especially since they were playing worse teams, and then they win. So, I mean, from a Mets standpoint, how do you feel about that?
I think it has not everything to do with. I think it has a lot to do with, as the Lindor and a bunch of them called it, the baby Mets. You got Alvarez, you got Beatty, Vientos. Even though Vientos hasn't, I don't know why he's like almost never in the lineup. Then when he is, the next day they have a day off. I have a big problem with that. I don't understand, especially Alvarez. He's been killing the ball. I mean, tonight, the only two runs they got, Stroman was dealing, and the only two runs they got was a Alvarez two-run homer. And he hit it against like a 20, 30 mile an hour Chicago wind blowing in. I mean, what else do you want the guy to do? And there was maybe it was a bogus rumor, but it was like, oh, he'll get sent down. Like what? Like he's been your offense. He's been hitting in such crucial spots. I don't know if that probably wasn't true, but I don't understand why Gary Sanchez, out of all people, Gary Sanchez is getting time over him. Maybe you could shed light on that, like in support of it. I don't know, but I just don't get it.
No, I see no reason that Gary Sanchez is starting. And I actually saw the Mets broadcast was like, well, he was the fastest to get like amount of home runs or something like that. And they were joking around like, oh, well, you want to know what? He also can't run. So he's probably not the fastest to first
I think
base.
it was the Cubs. Yeah, that because
Yes.
you know who took a shot at him? Joe Girardi. And I don't know why Joe Girardi is on the Cubs broadcast of it, but
No way Joe Girardi said that. That's
Joe.
crazy.
Well, you know what they were saying was like they said something like he wasn't running fast, like you said, he wasn't running fast. And Joe Girardi's the one that said that. He's like, I know he's not running fast at first base, and like that, like because Joe Girardi hates Gary Sanchez. That's part of the reason why he was fired. I don't think it was the whole reason, but it was part of the reason for sure.
Yeah, jeez, that's insane. I actually didn't know that part about why Joe Girardi was fired.
Oh yeah, yeah. Gary Sanchez hated him, and the Yankees thought Gary Sanchez was going to be like their, next great prospect because he was young at the time. But obviously, they were way wrong. And Girardi was on the outs anyway. I don't think Girardi was. I mean, we saw what happened with Philly with him. I don't think he's a today's game manager. But
No,
Sanchez hated him.
no. I I remember the 2018 playoffs when they like Lindor said he got hit or something, or one of the Guardians or Indians players at the time said that they got hit and he clearly didn't get hit. It was a foul ball and he didn't challenge it. And then they lost the game because they hit a grand slam. So he was definitely not a manager for that time. No,
No, yeah, he's. I mean, he's one of those guys that I think he's more suited for like the older game. I
mm,
think. I think nowadays these players, you have to know how to handle these guys. It's a different game. You can't handle it like he's used to like 80s, 90s baseball. It's not how it is anymore.
no.
It's so and Gary Sanchez was proof positive that he hated him. And I think that's part of the reason why you see Joe Girardi just in the media aspect now. I think he just kind of likes watching it, talking about it. I think he's maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's done with the managing aspect.
I think he should be done with the managing. I mean, we saw him in Philly and like I got to see him firsthand. It just wasn't pretty. There were just some weird moves that he made. He just like wouldn't put in the closer in a clear like closing situation. He wanted to try someone else. It just wasn't right.
And
Like,
this is actually a good segue to this because there's been growing Met fan disdain a little bit for Buck Showalter. So like
oh,
for the first time really in his whole tenure here, which I mean it's not like it's been like 20 years or anything, but he's been
no,
here for a good amount now. And for the most, especially the first year, he was hailed as genius. He's adapted to the new game. Now, especially with the young guys getting off like out of nowhere off days and bringing in Daniel Vogel back to pinch hit, starting Tommy Pham, guys that are doing absolutely nothing. Like there's been Met fans now that are like very upset with Buck. I'll give my thoughts after, but I want to hear what like an outside perspective. What do you think about Buck?
okay. I like I always love Buck Showalter. Like he was a great Orioles manager. I was just watching Seinfeld when he was on the Yankees.
There you go.
Like just there's just he's had a great career, but he's had a long career. So he's had to deal with different sides of baseball. And I'm not saying that he should be fired. I don't think that Buck is the big reason. I do think that maybe Tommy Pham is a bad choice, pinch hitting for Vogelback. The rookies should be starting. The Mets have, I mean, Alvarez, Beatty, and what, Viento, you said?
Vientos, yep.
Bingo. Like they should be played. I saw the same thing in Chicago. Christopher Morel didn't get started. He wasn't even on the opening day roster. And then they put him when they brought him up, he has like 9 home runs in 11 games. So it just
Yeah.
goes to show the rookies should be playing because they're going to play their heart out. I guarantee Tommy Pham's prime is up. Gary Sanchez's prime is up. Daniel Vogelback, if he had a prime, it's up. You know, I don't think Buck should be fired for it. I think someone should like say like you got to be starting these guys more because he was a good manager. I mean, he what? How many? They had 101 wins yet last year.
Yeah, they had yeah.
So I don't think firing Buck is it's yet. Like if it was going to happen, I would say next year because I would need to see a full season of bad until he would get fired.
I I question how much of this is actually Buck and how much
Okay.
of this is Billy Epler. Because if you look at the guys we just mentioned, you look at Tommy Pham, you look at Daniel Vogelback, Gary Sanchez now, these are all Billy Epler guys, especially Pham and Vogelback. Vogelback's like one of his first trades that he made, one of the only, I mean, aside of every trade Billy Epler's made has been disastrous, honestly. I mean, outside of Brooks Rally, because I mean that's not finished yet, but But you look at the Darren Ruff one, you look at everything's just been bad, and the Vogelback one's been really. I mean, not like we gave up a ton, but still, Vogelback's been useless. He's done absolutely nothing, and he went up tonight. Most of his at bats, he just stands there, looks at three fastballs down the middle, and walks away. Like he doesn't offer anything in the field. I've said this before, but he offers nothing in the field. Offers nothing in terms of speed. Offers nothing in terms of hitting now. He shouldn't be out there. And Tommy Pham is another Billy Epler guy, one of the offseason acquisitions that Mets fans were kind of, and everybody was just kind of like, wow, like why is he here? And he's starting way too much. He's hitting like barely 200, 220, like something like that. He's hardly hitting. And you have, by the way, a guy in the minor leagues, Ronnie Mauricio, still down there, the only guy left really of the core like four guys that are doing great in the minors. He's hitting like Ronnie Mauricio is hitting like 375, I think. He's not starting. Why? I don't understand. Why are we allowing these veterans now and Tommy Pham and Vogelback to come up there, do absolutely nothing? It just doesn't seem like Buck. And if it is Buck, then it surprises me. It seems more like Billy Epler.
I can see that. I mean, we've heard of management, upper management kind of telling the guy, like the managers, like, oh, this guy's got to start. This guy's got to sit today. It doesn't seem like Buck would do that. I mean, he's dealt with young players. Like he was the, like, going back to Baltimore. He was there when Manny Machado like just started his career. So he knows how to deal with rookies. It's insane to think that, that might not be working like now in 2023. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I'm not blaming this all on Showalter. I'm not going to say it's all Epler, but I'm not going to blame it all on Showalter.
No, there's certainly moves that, I mean, let's be real. The pitch hitting with Daniel Vogelback is not like, I don't think Billy Epler's making a call in the middle of the game telling him to do that. I don't think that he's being told that you have to. But my question, if I was had, Billy, not if Billy Epler and Buck Showalter had truth serum, and I could talk to them, I'd be like, well, is there any pressure you're putting on Buck to start? Like, is there saying like, is Billy Epler arguing for these guys, saying, and it's kind of obvious that his Buck's boss wants these guys in there. That we don't know, but it's just I don't understand any rationale other than trying to save your job, which is what Billy Epler I think is trying to do, because David Stearns' contract is running out with Milwaukee eventually, and there's been rumors and rumors and rumors for months and months now that Steve Cohen and Stearns are like as close as you could be without tampering, and they want to work together. And I think Epler's seeing that. And obviously, he sees those reports, and he wants his guys. He wants something to say. Look, my moves are working. And not many of these moves have worked, really. David Robertson's worked, but that's a free agent signing. He's a veteran for however many years. I mean, it's not like that's some genius signing. And Brooks Rally's been all right. He's been hurt, and the rest of it's just been terrible, absolutely terrible. That's it. Billy Epler's done absolutely nothing for this team, really. And you think about it, and nobody. I mean, Met fans talk about it, but like I don't really hear like other people talk about it. They'll go after Buck because he's the popular guy to go off. Oh, he's never won in the World Series, all that. But what about Billy Epler? He's done nothing either.
I for a manager, I'll never think that World Series wins matter that much. Because
Really?
like you want to know why? Because Dusty Baker's been a manager for God knows how long. And he just won his first World Series last year.
True.
So I've never thought he was a bad manager, but I don't know. That's just me. I'll never go off that. Joe Girardi won one, and like people say I think he was good for his time, but he's definitely not the best they've ever had.
I would say this. I agree that World Series isn't a benchmark. That means like there's been some terrible managers that win World Series just because they're are not, I shouldn't say terrible, yeah, and some mediocre ones that are on World Series teams, but the teams are just so good that you really don't got to do much. So it's not like it just because a guy won a like there's managers that win the World Series and nobody even remembers. But there's also managers that, like you mentioned, Dusty Baker. But I think at a certain point you do have to look. I mean, if Dusty Baker's never won a World Series, yeah, he's still probably Hall of Famer just because he's been in baseball forever and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But if Buck Showalter never wins one, he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's just not. Like he's going to be remembered as a baseball life for a great part of the game, but he's not. You need to win that World Series, like it or not. I mean, it is a big part of a resume. It just is, fair or not. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it. You have to have the team. You have to have, you got to catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. But it's going to be a part of his resume for sure if he doesn't win.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know how many managers are actually in the Hall. Let's see. MLB. Are there any Mets managers in the Hall of Fame?
Gil Hodges, but that's well, he's partly because of a manager, but he died, so it was short lived. Uh, he's mainly in there for his playing days with the Brooklyn Dodgers. Other than and
There,
Yogi Berra, but that wasn't because of Mets managing.
no.
But yeah, I think that's
There's
about it.
only. Oh no, there's a couple. Yeah, Connie Mack, Joe McCarthy, Al Lopez. Okay, these ones are all. Oh, Joe Torre, Bobby Cox, Tony La Russa, Sparky Anderson. Yeah, I mean, I guess Buck won't make it in. I mean, all these names have definitely won World Series. Have
Yeah,
any of these guys not?
because you think about it, like Dusty Baker, he's been in the game for like 50 years. He was a play, like obviously his playing career wasn't good enough to be in the Hall of Fame, but
No.
all that goes into account. Buck Showalter, while he's been in the game a long time, very respected figure, by all accounts seems to be a good guy and all that. He's being judged solely on his managerial career, solely on it. And he's been in the game less than well, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Dusty Baker.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and he's going to come down to if he wins the World Series. If Buck wins the World Series, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame. He's been in the game long enough. He's done everything else besides win one. But it's going to be like one of those things. If you can't win one, it's just going to be on your resume, and that's what I think Dusty was worried about. Even though he wouldn't admit it, I guarantee you, he was worried about like if I never win one, man, I've been in this game so long and I never won, but he won it. Buck, I mean, it's got to be at the back of his mind. I got to win one. I got to.
Yeah. I, I, there's something that's like still in the back of my head that just says that, some of these guys like build the team and then they get fired, and then the next year someone comes in and already has that team built for them. Like the Nationals, Dusty Baker was on that team, and then he gets fired. And then like a couple of years later he went to the Astros once the cheating scandal got seen, and then
Right.
they went to the series. So he left the Nationals right before they won. I don't know.
Well, that's a
There's
perfect
something
example of
inside
Buck.
me just says, but that's just me. And I would even say that Dusty Baker, like the team that he won the World Series with, like, not to be rude or anything, but he didn't really have any competition to face in the playoffs. Like the Mariners, it was their first time there. They didn't have that many core pieces. The Yankees hit a brick wall and just couldn't move forward. And the Phillies just, again, hit another brick wall. So I feel like that trail to the World Series was kind of easier than some of his other roads. But that just might be me talking. I might just
No,
be.
I agree. I think the World Series they got not that the Phillies didn't play well to get there and all that, but the Phillies really shouldn't have been in that. I mean, anything you
No,
could even say as a Phillies fan, they shouldn't have been in that spot. They
no,
weren't
they
ready.
really shouldn't have. I mean, from like the first game when they were down 2-0 in the ninth, and then they get some miraculous hits. Like it just wasn't their total playoff. There was no way that they were going to beat the Braves, and then they went on to beat the Padres. I they you could definitely tell they weren't supposed to be there when they got no hit. That was ridiculous. Like, but besides that, that team wasn't supposed to be there whatsoever. But the Astros were. I mean, they were undefeated before the World Series, and then they lose game one. But
Oh yeah, it was only a matter of time until they won it again.
hmm,
The core of that team is just so good. It still is. And yeah, I mean, I agree. It has less to do with. I mean, I think the Astros that were that one of those teams that like kind of no matter who was there they were gonna win it. I think
yeah,
that was just more of a moment for him to say like now it's official. Like we could celebrate his because like it should be that he shall you like his career was celebrated, but the asterisk had to be there. And I
hmm,
think that day was like the asterisk is gone. Now we can only talk about Dusty Baker's great career. We no longer have to dwell on oh, he doesn't have one. Then we could just say he's a great manager. He's done so much for baseball. He's been in the game forever, and just celebrate it. Like, but before that, it was yeah, that's true, but he doesn't have the World Series. And I think that Buck is it's gonna slowly turn into well, no, it is that. And it's going to become more and more and more, especially if he doesn't retire and goes on another few more years. But I got to think that's the reason why he came back. Because you got to remember, Buck was out of baseball for a solid 4 or 5 years, and now all of a sudden he comes back into New York. That's a calculated move. He has unfinished business in New York. You mentioned a manager setting up a team and then leaving and then them winning. That's Buck to a T. He was with the Yankees, left. They had the strike year, and they won it. So I think that's got to burn Buck, and it's got to make him feel like, man, if I only stayed, if George Steinbrenner didn't fire me and I won it, where would I be at right now? Would I already be in the Hall of Fame? Probably, I'd say.
There's a pretty good chance. That's rough. You want to know something? I actually, I know somebody that works at MLB Network. Like, he's like my brother's friend's dad, like something crazy like that. But he said that, like, oh, when the Astros got to the World Series, like they didn't know a narrative to go after. So they saw, oh, Buck, or not Buck, Baker's never won a World Series. So that's the narrative we're going to be taking. We're not going to be taking like, oh, the Astros won another World Series, because they keep on going there. They were like, we're going to take Baker instead. I just thought that was interesting. But nonetheless, a lot about Buck Showalter. Do you think that these Mets can really turn this around? Because I saw the series against the Rays. They kind of cooled off after that a little bit again.
Well, they just lost 2 in a row against the Cubs.
Yeah.
Played terrible. They kind of came back to earth. But I'm one of these people that, like, yeah, it's exciting to see that, and it's exciting to have the comeback wins and all that, and against the Guardians too. I mean,
Yes.
they had the doubleheader, and they had Verlander and Scherzer pitch,
That was
and
great for Verlander. I love to see that.
I mean, look, if those two could stay healthy, and I've said this ad nauseum, but if they could stay healthy, do what they did in that doubleheader, this team could go as far as winning a World Series. Do I see that happening? No, I do not see that happening, because I think a 40-year-old and 39. Ironically, I have more faith in a 40-year-old. But Scherzer, he powered through that start. He did well, but I don't know. The report of, oh, him wanting to bend but not break, and oh, he's the shoulder and all that. Like, it's May and we're already hearing this. And like, when is it going to be in September, October? You got to be at the top of your game versus Acuna, versus Michael Harris, versus all those guys. And the shares are gonna. It's just gonna be a repeat of last year. I really feel like. I hope I'm wrong, but that's why I think it's gonna be a wild card exit again. I gotta say.
You want to know what? There are so many teams out there that are playing like down baseball right now. Like the Padres, at one point they had less runs than the A's, which is crazy. Like the Phillies were World Series last year. Now they're like 3 games under 500. The Mets are having struggles. The Cardinals are having struggles. But for some reason, the Braves have somehow gotten better. They're the one team that I've
Crazy.
seen that's just like, oh, well, they haven't slowed down whatsoever. They're getting better at this point.
It's crazy. I think they're gonna be the next dynasty. As long as everything like is they don't as long as they don't have like a historic collapse of injuries or something, or I don't know, big underperformance, they're gonna be. I mean, look at this team. They're young. They have veterans in the right spot that are still playing well. Think Charlie Morton,
Mm-hmm.
and I how many flaws do you really see on that team? I can't think of more than maybe one or two, and that's still kind of picking at straws. This team is ready to win, and I know I picked the Astros to win it back in April, but I don't know. They just haven't stopped. They really haven't at all.
No, they're fun to watch. They have some players that are playing down. Like Austin Riley, I know is hitting around the 240, 230 mark, right? Or 240, 250 mark. But like Acuna's playing like an MVP. Spencer Strider is going crazy. Like you're missing. I know Freed had a couple injuries. You're missing that, but you get like it all balances out somehow. I I really don't see any team right now that is going to beat them. And I think that this now that the Braves are kind of becoming the top, I think this is kind of the end of the Dodgers dynasty. I think this or next year is going to be the last of it. I can't see them going past that, especially with Kershaw, who they're going to keep on re-signing to 1-year deals until he retires, and Mookie, who's still amazing but is getting older, and the same with Freddie Freeman. And you lose Gavin Lux for a whole season. You don't know how that's going to affect him even next year. I don't know.
Well, if you're right, then there is no Dodger dynasty. That was definitely not a dynasty. They won, a
They won the
22
Mickey Mouse one. That's it. And
yeah,
I don't even
that
count that one.
if you're right and I mean you could very well be right because while they're a good team, their team's better. There's without a doubt
Hmm.
team's better. And I look at the Dodgers right now, and you mentioned the injuries and all that. I look at there's a lot of older guys there. I mean, Freddie Freeman's still great, but he's getting older. He's not 25 anymore. He's just
No,
not.
no.
And if I'm a Braves fan, I look at it like, yeah, I mean, I love Freddie Freeman and all that, but like, I kind of would rather, not have him. I mean, as much as I'd rather, as much as like it sounds crazy to say that, like, is Freddie Freeman gonna be another MVP year? I don't know. He's gonna play good. He's gonna hit 280, 290, which is just still great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but
Hmm.
like for a team like the Braves that is looking to go to a World Series and win it, you need guys almost your whole lineup hitting 300 plus. And that's what they have right now, pretty much. And Freddie Freeman would be like, as crazy as it sounds, Freddie Freeman would be like one of like the mediocre hitters in the Braves lineup. That's how good they are right now.
That's crazy. And it's so true. I don't like Freddie Freeman's one of the best hitters in the league. But like the Braves have so many of those great hitters that it kind of makes Freddie Freeman seem a little obsolete, especially with Matt Olson playing the way he is. I know he has a low average, but the home runs keep on coming in. I
I'd
don't
rather
see it
Matt
going in.
Olson right now. I mean, I maybe that's just coming from someone that doesn't like. If I watch the Dodgers and the Braves every day, maybe I'd feel differently. But like Matt Olson, I don't know. He's first of all he's younger.
Mhm.
He's he just that team just meshes so good together. I don't know. Like Freddie Freeman was obviously very unhappy with the Braves front office and all that. And I feel like if he were still there, even if he had signed a contract, I feel like there would still be some sort of dispute. I think he grew very tired of the Braves. They definitely undervalued him his whole time there. The way the exit came about was very like weird and abrupt, kind of reminiscent of Contreras we were talking about, like
Oh,
just odd and like he left
I
and
I cannot stand Contreras right
yeah.
now.
At least for Freddie, I'll give Freddie Freeman credit. He didn't do what Contreras did and went to another team. It's like I can't. I'm glad to be gone. Freddie Freeman actually came back and like cried, and everybody was like, "Well, does
Yeah.
he really be
Well,
there?"
they also said that his Freddie Freeman's agent at the time, because they fired him right after he found out, but didn't tell him that the Braves offered him a deal.
Mhm.
He just told him that the Dodgers did because he didn't want him going to the Braves because they were just going to undervalue him again.
Yeah, I mean that's
I mean, you shouldn't be
honestly,
doing that, but
yeah.
it is ridiculous for anyone to say that Freddie Freeman is going to be undervalued.
I look. I agree with the agent in terms of Braves were going to undervalue him,
Mhm.
but it was wrong to do that. You got to. It's your client has the right to do what he wants. It's your
Exactly.
opinion at the end of the day. It's not. Well, it's not your decision, but I should say at the end of the day, it's his decision.
No,
But
you're supposed to be a helpful middleman for him. You're
right,
supposed to,
exactly.
but you're not making the decisions.
Exactly. But I look at this Braves team. How many improve? I mean, at the trade deadline, what are they really even going to do? You could always add pieces and get better, but this team is just gelling so well together right now. And as long as they stay healthy. What are they? Who's going to take them down? They're probably going to win 106, maybe above.
Probably. I don't see them stopping anywhere soon. I
Yeah,
don't see them hitting a wall. They're scary. I'm almost happy as a Phillies fan that we're playing all 30 teams now because now I get to see the Braves less.
yeah, true.
Uh,
Definitely true. I could say the same as a Met fan. I hate when the Mets play them because it's always the same thing. We always play them close because we got to. The Mets always have to, if we got beat 30-0, don't get me wrong, I still be very upset. But it would it's when the Mets it's like 4-3 in the ninth inning. I'm sitting there all stressed out, and then the Mets blow it or something, and it's like the Braves is always a tough series, and they always play hard, and they always end up winning. It's just so frustrating to watch.
no, you're totally right what you said. I mean, Atlanta's the next dynasty. I want to see them get to more World Series. I want to see them win some more because they were like this in the 90s where they were amazing, but they only won one World Series. So if they can be better than that this year, if we can, I mean, if Acuna can be that MVP kind of guy and Soroka can be that Cy Young kind of guy who I love so much, this team can be really lights out.
They have, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, they have a chance to top the '90s Braves. The '90s Braves, I mean, yeah, one World Series, but they were good. I mean, that squad was good. Those squad, more than one
Yeah.
squad. All those squads are pretty good. And This team definitely challenged them. You think back Chipper Jones, all those
Exactly.
guys, Andrew
The core
Jones.
three: Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, and oh, I always forget the third, Tom Glavine.
Yeah, oh God,
Like,
Tom Clemens. The Mets history of getting out of, washed up guys, blowing it. It's so crazy. Pedro Martinez, Tom Glavine, Max Scherzer now, potentially Verlander if he falls apart. It's like we always get guys that are past their prime, still a little bit left, are good for a while, and then collapse. That's the Mets MO. Yeah.
I I mean, it's also I've seen the Phillies get some bad ones too. I remember that we got Jake Arrieta, and I was like, this guy's not he could don't even think about it. And now you're Craig Kimbrell blowing leads constantly.
Yeah, at least Arietta wasn't like he like you kind of knew when you got him he was done. Like he wasn't like a savior type. Scherzer's a savior type, especially when we got him, and
Yes,
Verlander's a savior type. We're putting everything on those guys. So
you're right. I mean, like the Phillies weren't in playoff contention at that point. The Mets definitely
yeah, it's the Mets. They always got to do good enough to get you excited, and then they just crash down. That's the Mets. But, it is what it is.
were. Exactly. Well, I mean, it's kind of a Mets curse at this point. You want to actually next Wednesday, I'm going to the Mets Phillies game with my friend, and I'm very excited for it. I think it's two under playing teams right now that we'll have to see.
It's gonna be. I mean, the Phillies and Mets, they're very like even right now. I think like the Met, like they're both have gone through their struggles. They
They
both
both
are
have their
starting to play a little
highs,
better. Yeah,
their lows, for sure.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's definitely a much like more level competition than it is either Mets Braves or Phillies Braves. I think either when we either one of us plays the Braves, it's kind of just like a. I mean, maybe they'll scratch out a game or two, but still the Braves are so much better. But
No,
when the Mets
the
play the Phillies, they
Braves are
play much
insane.
better.
I was like shocked when we won that series against them.
Yeah. I mean, they're not like obviously they lose games just like everybody else, but like they always play it tough. You'll never go through a game really or a series, I should say, against the Braves where like you don't have to use your main relievers, you don't have to scratch out a win. Like they always, even when they lose, they play you so tough where you the next day you have like no relievers left. That's insane. It's a sign of a really good team.
Yeah. And they're like we were just talking about bad trades. Billy Epner might be making bad trades, but the Braves are making some great ones. I mean, you have Sean Murphy was such a win for them. He had no hitting coming in, had some insane hitting. He had like 8 home runs or something close to that in like April, and then hit two more at the first day of May. So
So what a
great
winning team
trade,
does.
and you're getting in new young guys that are going to keep this dynasty going. Every dynasty I've seen so far dies out on those old guys, but it seems like the Braves are just picking and choosing the young guys out there.
That's the key. Having a mix of some older, like not too old, but some mix of some guys in their prime and mix of some guys in the early 20s that are ready to get going and contribute. And that's what the Mets have always never been able to do. Or that's what we're trying to do right now, bringing up these young kids, but it's sort of a last ditch effort because the rest of the team's older. And the Braves, you look at a lot of the team's young, but in a few spots they have some veterans that they hold the fort. They're still very good. That I'll probably play a leadership role, probably teach young guys stuff. It's a perfect mesh, and that's exactly what a dynasty needs because you can replenish older guys. There's always older guys out there in the market. Like you could always find an older guy that's still good, but the problem is finding the guy that's 22, the next Juan Soto, the next Tatis, whatever you want to say. That's almost impossible to find. So that's what makes the dynasty versus the one-time winner. That's the difference. At least how I look at it.
No, that's that. You can't have a team of full young guys. Can't have a team of full old guys. You need to mix and match. One of those teams that I think is doing really good with that is the Rangers. Um, I I said this at the beginning. I really like the Rangers. They're clicking, which is impressive in my eyes. They're what first in the AL West by 3 games, 7-3 in their last 10, and 16-8 at home.
It's insane. It really. I mean, you keep in mind, whenever we really talked about the Texas Rangers, I'd harp on Jacob DeGrom, probably
Mhm.
just my Mets fan
Exactly.
brain. But it's true. I mean, even whoever's looking at it, Jacob DeGrom should be a big part of this team. He should be the ace, even with
Mhm.
Evaldi, and even with Martin Perez. And Martin Perez has kind of underperformed, but still, those three are looked at as the big three pitchers on there. Either one of them could be an ace, but I look at it especially as DeGrom because how much he's getting paid,
Mhm.
and just he's Jacob DeGrom. But he's hurt as he normally is, but they're still doing this. He's been hurt like a lot now. He's been hurt like he really hasn't pitched consistently at all this whole year, and
No.
they're still playing this good. It's a credit to Evaldi especially. He's played very and Marcus Simeon, who I know we'll get into.
Yes.
Those two guys really they played just so great.
I mean, Marcus Simeon hit a leadoff home run today. You're right. They get this ace. The ace isn't really working out. Again, he's struggling with injuries. It almost seems like painful for him to go out there. Like him and Dustin May. Dustin May, I saw a picture because he just got injured. He's out for a little while. He's out till after the All-Star break. And there's a picture of him just like sitting there like, I'm injured again. Like I can't do this anymore. Same thing with DeGrom. Like when you saw the picture, it's almost the exact same thing. Two totally different pitchers, but they're kind of going under the radar for me. I did not know they were first place. And if you watch them, you would know they're first place. I've watched them a bunch, but what? Evaldi went 9 innings with, I believe, 1 run a couple days ago or yesterday. Their backup pieces have really been proving that they can be that front piece for this team.
They should be talked about like I mean, as crazy as it sounds, along with the Braves right now, like I don't think they're anywhere near in terms of like at the end of the season where they're not going to be anywhere near the Braves. But where we are right now, May 24th, the Texas Rangers, the Atlanta Braves, the Dodgers, keep the Astros. Those are the top tier teams. And when people and analysts mention top tier teams, I hear all those other teams, but I don't really hear the Texas Rangers. And if I was a Texas Rangers fan, that would really annoy me because they've done everything that they've had to do. They're in front of the Astros right now. I mean, and you look at, they spent, and I'm not saying they have a low payroll, but look at that payroll compared to the Astros. It's nowhere near. Look at that payroll compared to the Dodgers. Look at that payroll, especially compared to the Mets. It's nowhere near. They made their signings and everything, and it's helped. But this team is built on, like you said, a mix of young guys, mix of older guys, and they've gone through injuries. And do I think it's necessarily going to be sustainable to a whole year? I don't know. I think they're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be great. But still, it's very impressive. I mean, the Texas Rangers have been nowhere for years now. They're non-thought, and now they're finally relevant. I feel good for Rangers fans. They deserve it. It's long storied franchise, obviously, and I'm happy for them. But I think I still hold on to the belief that DeGrom, at a certain point, Evaldi's not going to be perfect this whole year, and you're going to need DeGrom in there. So
they are. And Martin Perez has his ups and downs, and I know that, but he can't be that number one ace. They need to have some more. They need a more securable number one. I'm not saying just leave DeGrom in the dust, but I'm not saying, well, maybe go out and trade for one more.
It might come down to that. I don't know. You can't rely on DeGrom at this point. You can't go into October. If they're going into October and saying, well, DeGrom game 1 and well, we got him. You can't go on that because at any point his arm could fall off, and at any point he could just start throwing meatballs down the middle because his arm's about to fall off. So that's just how DeGrom is. You need to get an insurance piece in there if you want any shot of competing against any of the top teams that we named. And are they going to do that? I don't know. I think they really want to hold on to the Jack Leiters, the other guys that they have on the farm system. But if they do make a really good move, I think they're a team to be reckoned with. Not that they're going to win World Series or anything, but I think they're going to be a pesky team in the playoffs if they do make a move.
Yeah, I playoff wise, I don't think they're there yet to make it to. Well, I mean, it obviously depends who they play, but I don't think they're championship series yet. I think they're still in that division wild card area right now. But they're a good team. They're a team that if you're starting to watch baseball and you want to watch like an up and coming team, the Rangers are perfect for there. Do I think they're contenders? Yes. I would not say that this team is one of those teams that just has a little spark and it just is going to fade. But I'm not saying they're fully ready yet. That DeGrom piece is scaring me. The amount of times I've looked down at my phone and I saw no hit through 4 for DeGrom gets taken out with arm soreness.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. It's not what he wants to see, And it's not what any good baseball fan or any Rangers baseball fan wants to be seeing right now.
Exactly. I mean, it's the risk they took signing him. Everybody knew the risk. It's it's like gambling. You know the risk, you take the risk. Doesn't work out, works out. It's nobody could say, including the Texas Rangers GM and all them. Nobody could say they didn't know that this was a possibility. Everybody knew. It's just part of the thing with DeGrom, part of his reputation now. And they're putting their season the same way the Mets are putting their season on injury prone guy in Scherzer, but they're putting their season on a guy that's older and a guy that's had a lot of injury issues. And when you do that, it's a big risk. You're risking, a lot of especially they put a lot of money into this team for their standards. You look at the Texas Rangers, when did they ever really put a lot of money into their team aside from this year? Like I can't remember tons of big signings from them. So they put a lot into this team. And if it comes down to, when they're in September and the staff's kind of struggling and they need that guy to come in there that fifth day and have a guaranteed win, and they don't have that because DeGrom's hurt with whatever type of injury, I'd look back at that and be like, man, what if we put that money into something smarter? What if we, did something else? Because if they did, and they had a better like number one, like I said, let's say they got Verlander, and let's say Verlander stays healthy this year. I look at the Rangers as a much better team. I don't know about
I
you, but
do. That's true. I you might they they do need to trade for one more ace because I mean Verlander would have been a better choice than DeGrom in this
yeah,
position for me at least. I can't. You either get a couple bad starts but a consistent starter, or a great starter but can't go more than 5 or 6 innings, and will get injured at least once every other month.
it's two risks for sure. I mean, not that Verlander's without risk. There's certainly risk there. Anytime a
Yes.
pitcher enters his 40s, anytime a pitcher, I mean, the guy has like 18 years of MLB, experience on his arm now, however many thousand innings, there's risk there without a doubt. And we've seen that with the Mets. I mean, he was hurt the first couple of games of the season. He was out, and so there's certainly risk there. He's not like he's the perfect pitcher by any means, but the Grom there's way, way, way more risk. And I know the age he's young. He's a lot younger by like 7 years, I think. But still, that's irrelevant at that point. He pitches like he's 50 with that arm. He always has a problem with it. He'll throw great, and then his arm will fall off. So it just I'd feel much more comfortable over Verlander, even though there's risk there too. I look at DeGrom as a 95% chance of injury. I look at Verlander as like a 70, 65, but I'd rather that 70, 65. Like you said, consistency. DeGrom is the definition of consistency right now. He comes out there, he'll do great. Maybe he'll even do like 5 or 6 starts, but then he'll fall apart. And that's the worst when someone gives you hope, especially if that comes in like September. I mean, I know just to, that's the worst when you get that. You could clip that and make it. That's the worst when someone gives
That
you
was
hope with a
great.
line.
When
But I
someone
know it
gives
as a
you
Mets fan.
hope.
Yeah, when I know it as a Mets fan, man. I look at 2022. The team gave me hope, and then they just shattered my dreams. It's true. I mean, it sounds weird to
Oh,
say it's worse when someone gives you hope, but it's true.
oh my gosh, that was great. When someone gives you hope.
Like you got to clip that, put that on
I
TikTok.
really do. That was great. When someone gives you hope and just breaks it. Oh dear. Oh dear. Coming from a Mets fan, that's rough.
Put me next to Frank the Tank.
I mean, I'm looking at their stats right now. Andrew Heaney leads them with strikeouts per nine. Uh, Nathan Eovaldi has 6 wins right now and a 2.60 ERA and 66 strikeouts, which all leads the team in 14 and a third innings pitches. Oh no, sorry. And sorry, that's pitches per inning. I don't know why, but that's a big stat. But it's an interesting team. You know, they got guys, a lot of different guys on this team, and Marcus Simeon's my favorite. But you got young guys. I love Nathaniel Lau. I will always be a Nathaniel Lau fan. He was the Silver Slugger last year, and I still think he's underrated. Jonah Heim really turned it on this year. Josh Jung is another guy. Mitch Garver, which was like a small accusation for this team, but I don't know. He had a big bat in Minnesota, and then Adolis Garcia, who had 3 home runs. I don't know if we ever got to talk about that uh, in our last show, but he had 3 home runs, which is pretty cool. Although against the A's. You take anything
Yeah.
like that. Actually, so I have all these hats. And so I have this A's hat I was gonna sport today for the show, but I was like, it looks so stupid with like the blue background and the yellow. So just here. Anyways.
I thought you were gonna say it looks stupid because it's the A's.
Well,
I
it
thought you were
is.
about to take a line with the A's.
You want to know what? We were talking to Nussbaum at one of our shows, and I think he said such a great thing about the A's. He said they want to get a new stadium to bring more fans in, but the Pirates have PNC Park, which is, I mean, Anthony, I don't know if you ever been. Have you ever been to the Pirate Stadium?
I
PNC Park?
haven't. I always like
Oh
to
my
go.
gosh, you would love it. It's beautiful, but they don't bring in any fans in because they're a bad team. So
True.
the A's are probably going to do the exact same thing, although most likely they'll probably get some gamblers in there that just want to watch firsthand how bad the team is. I don't know. We'll see.
And they still keep Pete Rose out. Jeez.
Oh my gosh. I
Speaking of that, did you see Aaron Judge like shake Pete Rose's hands? Yeah, that's what I
really,
was.
I did not see that. I was going to
Yeah,
talk about the other thing with Aaron
I don't
Judge.
know why. I thought that maybe it was like an urban legend, but didn't like you hear for like the longest time Pete Rose is like banned from going to games. It's like maybe that was just
Yes,
yeah.
he was
I
banned
don't
to
know when
going
that
to
stopped.
games, but last year they had a 1980s Phillies reunion. So Pete Rose is on that team, and they were like, "We're not bringing Rose." And then the entire team was like, "If you don't bring Rose, we're not coming." I think everyone except Mike Schmidt because he's like too close to the Phillies organization to say no. And then they brought him, and he like said some. They had him on the broadcast, and he said some like wild stuff.
This is my thing with Pete Rose. Okay, everybody talks about the betting. There's a lot more to get into a Pete Rose.
Yes, if he just stopped at the betting, he would have been a Hall of Famer easily. But like, there's way too much about him. Like I don't know if you know basketball, but Karl Malone has like the weirdest stuff about him that like really should have never. Like he got a 13-year-old pregnant, which is crazy. But he's in the Hall of Fame because no one knew about it before he got inducted. So
Yeah, I mean,
he
the
just
standards
messed
for
up.
Hall of Fames are very weird. There's certain people that are allowed, like, there's baseball Hall of Famers that are absolutely terrible people. And yet, I mean, I'm not saying P. Rose is a good person, but, the fact that the reason they keep him out is betting, I think is just, I don't know. If you're going to say, like, if you're going to try to have the, oh, betting is a terrible approach, maybe not have, deals with literally every betting company that's ever
Exactly.
existing right now.
They
Like,
every commercial break on MLB TV, all I see is, "Do you want to gamble live sports right now?" Gamble like
it's
it's ridiculous.
talk
Pick
about
a
not
side.
ethical. Who's watching those commercials? Kids. I mean,
Exactly.
how many times? I mean, if you go back and like watch, like especially like go back on YouTube and watch like when Pete Rose first got caught with that, the reaction from commissioner, the reaction from like the talking heads back then. This is so like the kids are watching. This is so disgusting. Now you turn on any channel, ESPN, yes, SNY, any of them. First commercials, do you want to bet now? The guy from Breaking Bad immediately comes on, Jesse, whatever his name
Yes,
was.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
bet live sports now. It's like, where did that go? And now you're still the reason for banning Pete Rose is still the betting. If you want to make it any other reason, any other his wild thing that he ever said and does, whatever. I mean, it's still kind of weird because you have a bunch of bad people in the Hall of Fame. But the reason being betting, it's not like he bet on his own team. He didn't bet against his own team. Not to say it's ethical. It's not. But he didn't bet against his own team. And he's doing something that I'm sure a lot of players are doing right now. I'm sure a lot of umpires are doing right now. They just cover it up. I'm sure there are.
I guarantee they do. I it's 100% happening. There's way too many MLB players, way too many minor leaguers, way too many coaches and umpires for to say that no, oh yeah, they're all clean. No. Yasiel Puig just got caught in like Japan that he had like a third party gambling.
It's and people that say like, oh well, these guys make so much money. Like, why would they be doing it? First of all, a lot of the gambling is not because of money. It's just because people have addictions, and
Exactly.
that's There's plenty of billionaires and millionaires that gamble, and the money isn't even significant. It's just because they like this, because it's an addiction. And there's also just people that, they get a lot of money, but they blow it away. Like just because you guys sign a contract doesn't mean that they're getting all that money. So I'm sure, especially with umpires, I'm sure there's umpires there. How many times do we see umpires? They make the most boneheaded, decisions. It goes to the replay center. Like, it wouldn't be that out there for them to think like these guys get whoever to go on these apps that they all get going cahoots with. They all split the money. It's easy money for them. How would it not be happening? I don't know how it's not investigated more. To be honest with you, it baffles me.
I bet if the reason they probably don't investigate it is because it's probably like steroids in the early 2000s. Like it's just everyone is doing it. But okay, so going back to Pete Rose, the funny thing that I heard was when Pete Rose, when they found out that he did this and he got banned and everything, the commissioner of baseball said, just wait 5 years and then come back and we'll let you in the hall. Like you deserve to be. But then the commissioner died. And then the next commissioner was like, I've never heard that whatsoever. That never happened. So that's not happening. Like you're still kicked out. And then all these allegations came out. And then it was like, well, now there's no way you're getting in whatsoever. But I mean, it's weird. He's like got some weird things just like all around. Like he's just one of those weird guys. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's not by any means. I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm not saying, but the reason you keep him out is for betting, and then you promote betting, you show betting everywhere. It's hypocritical. If you want to keep him out because he's a bad person, whatever, fine. But then there's a lot of guys you better not, you better, whatever you want to say, kick out them, because there's plenty of people that were worse than him, much worse than him. Like there's guys that were from the 1800s that are in there that were terrible, terrible people, terrible. And
Yes.
there's, I
And they
mean,
just totally forgot about it.
yeah, and there's nothing said. And there's nothing said. There's guys from 1910s, 19, like people forget. Just because it was over 100 years ago doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There's guys in there that were like legitimately like just terrible and are in the Hall of Fame. Yet Pete Rose, because he gambled, isn't. And Pete Rose has done some very terrible stuff too, allegedly and all that. But you know, it's not like he's any different than those guys. He's the
No.
same thing.
And actually, you want to know what this one? He was like Mike Brown. Am I like he just passed away? He was
Mike
a
Brown.
great football player, and then he was a great
Oh,
lacrosse.
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, yes, Jim Brown.
Yeah.
He just passed away, but he was like an awful person off the court.
You know what was weird was, so when he passed. I mean, I understand that the first thing you don't want to mention is like his, he allegedly he beat women and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
understand that's not the first thing you want to mention when a guy passes away. But like everybody that I heard talk about it had the same, like it was like they're reading a script. He's a great football player. He turned into an actor, but of course we do have to mention that he did this and this and this. It's like literally, I listened to WFA and they said it in the morning show. I listened to like even just like random news stories. They said the same stuff, and it was so crazy to me. Like, why can't the first thing you say, if you want to take the approach of judging people based on their character, fine. Why not the first thing you say is he had like 30 accusations of like he literally like 30. Like it was insane.
yeah.
Like, why not say that?
You know what? It just that's just something that happens with these great athletes. Like Kobe was a great athlete and he had a lot of great things, but there was some accusations against him. And I remember when he died, like one reporter was like, well, he was a great athlete, but he wasn't so great off the court. He did some bad things. And then she was like, got like murder threats against her and all these like crazy
Yeah,
things. I mean,
so
like this is totally outside of baseball, but like still, it's just one of those interesting sports aspects kind of things that not everyone talks about all the time.
yeah, people get this mindset that these guys, just because they're good athletes, that means they're like they should be revered as like these amazing, like they're people. They it
Yeah.
doesn't, like, just because maybe they did something bad doesn't necessarily that they're evil inherently, but they should be acknowledged. If they did something that's reprehensible, that should be said, and it shouldn't be like you mentioned, the reporter that mentioned the Kobe thing. It shouldn't be that they're like a terrible reporter for mentioning it. It's a good reporter for mentioning it. You should say either it was an allegation or whatever, but it's a part of the guy's history and it should be said. Like, I don't see any problem with that. It's public stuff. It's not like they went digging for something.
Yeah.
Just is what it is.
But on the other side of that too, I mean, people kind of see bad things and then they think that they're a bad guy. There's a lot of great athletes out there. I mean, I hope that the majority of them are great people.
A lot are. That's another
I
thing. Like a big like misconception is like, these guys are all doing all these terrible things and all that. Like that's not true. There's so many guys out there that are like just do it the right way, are just regular people and are very talented and like, that's it. But there are like everything else, there's bad people. And like that's just how it should be said. But unfortunately, it's always like an ultimatum, like this person's either great or this person's either bad. Like people have their low moments in life and that's it. But like, yeah, I don't get why Pete Rose, I mean, to get back what we were talking about, I don't get why the Pete Rose thing, I don't know why he's like that just the gambling is so hyper focused on. Like there's other stuff you could focus on. Like that's like the only, like when you think Pete Rose, that's the only thing people talk about, which is just crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, to go on to, more baseball things. Uh I want to talk about one more thing before we end our show.
Okay.
Aaron Judge had first of all, the Blue Jays Yankees series was crazy. There was a lot of just weird things. But I think the craziest thing we saw was Aaron Judge. He was here, or he was like there, and then he looked over there.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, did I just how did I do that?
What?
Did you see me? I just raised my hand.
What do you mean? How'd you do that?
Did No, but you see how my hand's raised?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't touch the computer. I just did this. Oh.
Yeah. That's your hand.
But do you see the emoji on the side that says raise my hand?
Oh, no, I didn't see that. That's weird.
That's pretty crazy. Okay. Well,
That's kind of creepy. But that's weird.
so he like was holding the bat, and it's probably gonna go up again. Uh, he's holding the bat, and he was looking over here, and then he goes like that and looks into this direction, which was probably looking at the dugout. He says that he was looking at the dugout because they were chirping earlier, and he was kind of being like, "Stop chirping." But that is definitely not true because the next pitch he hits home run.
No, it was sign stealing. It was 100. But the difference is, I think, well, as far as we know, at least they weren't using video. As far as we know, they weren't using
Yeah.
trash cans. It's sign stealing has been a part of baseball. There's nothing illegal about sign stealing as long as you're not using an outside source. As long as
Yes.
you're seeing with your eyes that a guy's tipping a pitch,
Mhm.
or that whatever the coach has a sign that's obvious, you could do that. They're like there's nothing like it's gamesmanship. Like it's just what it is. The only thing that the Astros did that was illegal was having an outside force, having the trash
Exactly.
can, watching the feed, a Fox feed, whatever it was. That was the only thing that was illegal. That's why I don't like I think the Blue Jays broadcast kind of pointed it out, which is fine. But like the fact that it was trying to be brought into like some like big thing, like there's a reason why people kind of forgot about it because it's not that big of a deal. It's part of the game. The guy has to stop tipping his pitches. They got to figure out what the problem was, and that's it. If it turns out to be that they were using the broadcast, then okay. But I don't think that's what it was at all.
No, I don't think it was either. And I think that was way too fast of a interaction to even. I think it's incredible that he hit the home run, but I don't think he was cheating. And then we saw this one didn't surprise me. I mean, Domingo Germán got ejected for a sticky substance. We were talking about it earlier with the sweat and rosin that Scherzer got ejected and suspended. German Marquez was just told to wash his hands. Or
Domingo Herman.
Herman yeah. Herman Domingo. Yes. Yes. Okay. Cool.
That's because there's no uniformity. Like some umpires will give a warning and tell to wash the hands. Some won't. And then someone, when there's a second incident, they'll do it. Like what happened with Herman, there was a second incident, so that he got thrown out. But like, there needs to be like some sort of uniformity with it. Like so many things with baseball, there is like a gray area of rule, and like there shouldn't be a gray area. It should just be either you're immediately thrown out, either everybody's given a warning, either there's some like there's got to be something, and there's not. It's just like it's up to the umpire's discretion, and you shouldn't be having to be worried about who's the umpire. It should just be what the rules are the rules. It's like in the NFL. We don't know any of these referees' names. There's a reason for that because the NFL has concrete rules, and referees are supposed to call by the concrete rules. Why in baseball do we know who Angel Hernandez is? Why do we know Joe West? Why do we know? Because there's a reason. Because these guys have their own rules. I could think back, like, if you look up on YouTube, Joe West, when he was doing a Mets game in like the 80s,
Hmm.
the camera crew was filming like it, and they showed the instant replay to the Mets manager at the time. Like, this was way before instant replay, obviously.
All right.
So the camera crew was showing it. Joe West went over, threw the cameraman out of the game. He was creating his own rules. This happened before. The cameramen have showed like this even before it's the replay. The manager wants to see if the call is correct, so they go over and look at it. Joe West saw that, called the guy out of the game. Joe West also, I forget who the batter was. Maybe you've seen the clip when the guy refused to get in the box and he started calling strikes on him. Did you ever see that clip? It
I
was like
haven't seen that clip.
I forget who the batter was, but the batter wasn't going in the box and he was arguing with him. So what he did was he told the pitcher to start pitching. He just called strike no matter what. These guys create their own rules, and that doesn't happen so much nowadays. But it's an example. Like umpires, it's their way or the highway, and it shouldn't be like that.
I don't. That's. I haven't seen that clip. I have seen the clip though of when Adrian Beltre was on the verge of 3,000 hits. Like he was just like one away. And he's like he wouldn't get in the batter's circle, like the
Right?
on deck circle. Like you've seen that. And then he's like, no, and then he jokingly moved the on deck circle when they told him to get in, and then they threw him out.
Yeah,
He's on the
I've
verge
seen.
of 3,000. You just threw out a guy. Like all these fans are, let's be honest, those fans were not there to see the Rangers play. They were there to see Adrian Beltre play, and these guys make up their own rules. You're so right.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. I was just watching the Phillies game today. 10th inning, Rojas or Diamondbacks batters up, 0-2 count, and he gets in the box at 9 seconds, steps out at 9. He already had one of the
timeouts.
timeouts done. So he was supposed to get a strike against him. And the Diamondbacks manager comes out and they're yelling at him, and then they're just like, forget about it. But then Craig Kimbrell is like, all right, then I'm gonna start getting ready to pitch once everything comes back together, and they call a ball. Like he didn't get to throw the ball. They were like, no, you took too long. It's a ball. And he's like, you guys just you just took like 15 minutes to talk about this, and now I just got a ball called against me. Like it was the game on the line. It was the 10th inning. And you start with that man on second. So it's just like he should have been called out. And then the ball was just crazy. Like these guys are just flinging out rules. The Aaron Judge thing, I think, was just one thing, but the sticky stop sense is like he obviously should have gotten this called a while ago, but I always knew this was how it should have been called. I thought oh yeah, you just go wash your hands and then come back out. That's totally fine. Was like crazy, and then nothing happens. Another thing I want to talk to you here. Wait, this is actually the last thing I want to talk to you about. Did you see the college baseball game with the big ejections?
I don't believe I did. No.
So there was a college game. I think it was actually a Cape Cod game.
Okay.
Uh, so the first baseman, bases are loaded. The first baseman is hearing something from the runner on first, and it's not the first base coach. He's like just hearing a voice. So he tells the umpire, like, I can hear something. It's not the base runner. It's not the coach. There's like, I hear like something. So they go over and they check the helmet, and there's like an earpiece in the batter's helmets. And then they were like, well, this is crazy. So then they found out the coach was sending signs through the helmets. And then they checked the batter's helmet, and then there was one in there. They checked the second base helmet. There was one in there. And everyone had one. And they didn't know what to do, which is fair. You don't know what to do in this position because it's like an alien just stepped on Earth. Like, who thought that anyone would do this? But then they didn't make a single ejection. They didn't like call the game. They just kept on going. And the other coach was like, shouldn't there be like an ejection or like something? Like, we're in a tie ball game. It's 5-5. There's bases loaded, no outs, and they just kept on playing.
It tells you how deep the problem lies. It's even on college baseball. And the fact that there's two big problems there. One, electronics are being used by even young players, even not even professional players yet. It's a problem in college, not even minor leagues, not even whatever, not major leagues, not minor leagues, college. Like, what is it going to be in Little League next? Like what? Like where? How low is this going to go? There's a buzzer, there's a earpiece, there's a banging the trash can, there's a watching the video feed. Like, like what are we? What's next? Like, why can't we just like we have technology in every other aspect of our lives? Why can't we go play a baseball game? And why can't we have the hand signs? And why can't we just play like normal, like they played for 500 years? Like I don't like even the pitch com, like that's not a big deal, but like why do you gotta have the pitch come in your hat and then you gotta hold the glove over your head because the crowd's too loud? What happened to just one's fastball, two's whatever? Like that worked for however many years and it was fine and everybody agreed to it. Why not just keep to that? Because once you start adding electronics to the game, the bar gets pushed. Well, push com's okay. What if we do a thing? The buzzer's okay. The base runners on base. What do we do that? Like it's just making unnecessary adjustments to the rules, and it's also inviting cheating because once you allow a certain thing, you're gonna get more cheating. You're gonna get a little more cheating, and there's gonna be pushed. Rules are gonna be pushed. It's just stupid to me. I don't just play the game old school. And there's the other problem there is like we've just been talking about the umpires. If it's illegal to have an electronics on you, the whole team should have been thrown out. Game should have been forfeit.
Bingo.
What that would have been the easiest decision in the world to me. If you all have it, you get thrown out. You're penalized. As simple as that. Like, if that's a rule, enforce the rule. What's the rule there for then? It's like having a law, but then not arresting for somebody for breaking that law. Well, if it's the law there, that's the same thing. It's just stupid.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then the worst part is that now that this is in college, this is just one instance of it. You can't say that now. Oh, okay. Well, it's all out of college now. Like we saw it, it's done. But they fired the coach after, which is good. But they, you don't know. Like, does this go deeper? Am I looking at a top prospect now, and I'm saying, well, this guy can be really good in like 2 or 3 years, but really, he's just hearing the balls and strike. He's hearing the fastball, slider, whatever pitch is coming in, and then when he gets to major league, he doesn't know, so he's just free swinging. It just, I will say this: hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. I don't know how you think about that, but I think that that is the hardest thing to do in sports.
I
I
totally
was
agree.
impressed that I could do it for as long as I did, but going up there and hitting 100, seeing Aroldis Chapman up there throwing 105, seeing Hunter Brown or Hunter Green up there throwing 105, seeing these guys throwing these crazy sliders, crazy pitches that go in and out is incredibly hard. But it's not supposed to be easy. Sports aren't really supposed to be easy in any sense or way. You know, even if there's, oh, well, if you do this, it'll make you better. Well, you're still going to have failure. Like baseball is the biggest sport of failure. And if you're going up there and cheating, that's just ridiculous. That doesn't hurt. That hurts your team. That hurts your fan base. That hurts the city that you represent. That hurts baseball itself. That hurts everyone around it. That hurts the other team as well. It's ridiculous. It hurts the fan base hugely, especially hurts diehard fans like us that like I love watching baseball every single day. But like when these is that how you do it? Okay. Anyways. I'm watching these teams and like there's always just that thought in my head. Like we brought it up last week against the Braves, like or not, against the Rays. They're doing good. Is there something going on? Because I've never really heard of a couple of these players and they're just like popping off.
And it really stings having to have that. Like it's exactly you said it's a lot like you compared it to the steroid era. I totally agree. Especially back then, the conversations that were had were, can we really enjoy these guys or are they roiding them up? And you had that conversation with Alex Rodriguez, proved to be right. He was roiding. Now I think this next generation of steroid era type thing is going to be the sign stealing era. It's going to be the electronics in baseball or technology in baseball is a better way to say it. Technology in baseball era. How much is allowed? What sign stealing is out? The sticky stuff era. We've seen that kind of play out a little bit. Like it's just so much stuff that doesn't need to be like sticky stuff to an extent's always been in the game. So I mean, yeah, it's annoying, but I'm not as like kind of it's what it is, what it is.
Yeah.
The sign stealing though, like it's just gotten to such a, I mean, earpieces, these guys are, our age, 19, 20, 21 years old, earpieces. Like these guys, this is not Aaron Judge doing this. This is not like these guys are, like you said, could be drafted in a year or two, could be drafted like in this upcoming draft. But how deep is this going? I find it very hard to believe that this is the only team in college baseball doing this. And I'm surprised I didn't even hear about this.
And the
That's
only
crazy.
reason it happened, I mean, two other runners had to pass first base before someone heard it. So the only reason that he heard it was because the volume was too high.
Yeah.
If he had that lower volume, we would have never heard this story.
It's totally crazy. And it's also crazy because people saw that and people just didn't say anything. I mean, that team that heard it must be like the only team, I guess, that wasn't in the loop, because what happens when they take the helmet off. There's a big earpiece comes flying out. Even if it's a little like AirPod type thing, you still see it in their ear, and it's still obvious that it's there. And if you go in the dugout, it's not a huge stadium. You can see the guy take something out of his ear. I'm sure it's been seen. But I think it's one of those things like when we talked to Jack Cust, like everybody was doing it, especially back then with the he even talked about the pitchers. Everybody's pitcher was using something on the ball. Everybody back then in the 90s, 2000s, everybody was writing it up. So nobody said anything because they knew their team was doing it too. That's it, like literally a direct quote from him. They knew that their team was doing it too. So are we entering an era where everybody knows their team is sign stealing? Everybody knows their team is using some sort of form of electronic on the field, and they're not going to say anything. Like, are we even heading to that level in college? And it's going to work its way up. Like, those are all questions we can't answer because we don't know. We're not involved in it. But that's certainly like a big, it could be a big, as we look back 20 years from now, it could be a big moment in that. Which is crazy to think about college baseball. It could be because college baseball is usually like an afterthought. But now it's like, if that turns out to be a big, step, it's going to be crazy.
We'll have to see. Well, I hope it's nothing too big, but it always just makes you think a little bit. Like it hurts to say it, but sometimes these sports are getting a little mysterious with technology, and that's not how the game is supposed to be played whatsoever. I love the guys that are true to the game and that are just pure hitters or pure pitchers, but it's just if you're a diehard fan, it's just sometimes hard to look at it at that lens. And that doesn't just
The
go for
most fun
baseball.
too. It's
That
just
can go
like,
for any sport around. But like
yeah,
out of all the sports, I feel like lately baseball has been the biggest one. The last big scandal that I've heard in another sport is the Deflate Gate with the Patriots. So
right. And when you have a scandal like that in football, it becomes like such a, like, that's another thing. In baseball, it becomes like yeah, people like talk about it and they're upset and everything. In football, it became like a national like news story because like people care. Like obviously right now, people care more about the integrity of football than baseball, which is just sad because baseball has been America's pastime for hundreds of years, and like it's kind of looked at as second fiddle, which is like it really stinks. But basically, it shouldn't have to be that way for a lot of reasons. It is that way. We've gone into Rob Manfred and all that, but I think if you start accepting electronics into baseball, it's going to have the opposite effect of the steroid era. At the very least, the steroid era increased viewership. I mean, for only a little while, but it still did with Barry Bonds and all that. Nobody's going to be tuning into the game because they want to see an earpiece, because they want to see a buzzer. They're going to look at that and say, this is stupid. Like, I don't want to see a guy getting, signs from his coach talking in his ear, a buzzer going off. Like, nobody wants to watch that. It's just stupid baseball. It's not entertaining like even like the steroid era was. That was entertaining. This is
well, I really hoping they turn it around, but we'll see. We'll see. We are coming to the end of our show though. Anthony, any final thoughts before we send this boy off?
I gotta say it was pretty cool to go into like 35 different topics. We usually couldn't do that.
Yeah, I know exactly. You usually got a time limit. I gotta look at the clock like 20 times. This was great. It's gonna be a
Yeah,
great summer. And we'll
it
also be
is.
trying to have smaller episodes, like little 15-minute clips of just, us talking about a little topic here and there. But we'll still have a main show. We'll figure that out soon. But
Yeah.
remember, keep updated with the walk-off. I'm actually going this Saturday. They have this really interesting thing that I didn't actually know was happening until really late. Anthony, next year you and me should go. Cooperstown does this Hall of Fame game where they just have 30 different players come in and play, but like they're not like big players. Like they're just like random players from around baseball history, like Chris Young's coming to play from the Diamondbacks. I don't know if you remember him. He was like an outfielder. He was pretty good. He's
He was
coming
a
to
Met. Yeah.
play. And then they have like four Hall of Famers be like the managers. So
That's cool.
it's pretty cool. But like definitely it's gonna be fun. And we'll take videos and we'll see if we can get any autographs. I know there was a big name. Hey, wait, let me just look this up real quick. The Hall of Fame Classic.
Cal Ripken, maybe he's usually involved in a lot of stuff.
I don't actually know if it's him. Here. Let's see. Rajay Davis. Rajay Davis is going to be there. The
Good
guy
player.
who hit the big home run in game 7. Brian Dozier will be there.
Really good player.
Who's the Mets guy? Oh, the Mets guy is Glendon Rush.
I know. That's a big drop off.
Yeah. I there's cool like Josh Reddick is going to be there from the Astros, so I'll definitely try to ask him a question or two,
Yeah, get wherever you can.
but it's just really cool and we'll see. I'm very excited. I last year or a couple of years ago we went and we actually because you know Cooperstown how it has like all the like there's a baseball card shop like on every corner.
I still got to go there. I've never
You've never
been.
been to Cooper? Okay, then
I still
next
got
year
to go.
we'll make the trip up there. I'll go get you from Freehold and we'll go.
Yeah, I'm game, man. Anytime.
I there's like a baseball card like it's like the biggest baseball thing. It's like baseball wonderland up there and I love it because every corner has a new baseball card shop and I guess they would like pay Hall of Famers to come in and just sit in the back and just charge to get autographs. So I got Vida Blue's autograph for like $25 and he just passed away. It was with pen. Like, wait, right here. This is pretty cool. I have all my autographs here. This one's from David Cohn and then Nick Swisher on the back. I don't know where I got these, but like, I think I got it from there. We'll see. So, anyway.
That's definitely it's like baseball heaven there at Cooperstown. It's like there's so much memorabilia, so much it's one of the places that really baseball should like not only just when in like the enshrinement's going on with the new class and everything, like it should be focused on a lot more. It should be marketed a lot more about Major League Baseball because they do a really good job there. Like it's just I even just by video I could tell they do an amazing job.
Yeah. And like the big thing about Cooperstown is like it's an entire town. Like the NBA Hall of Fame, like for how big of a sport the NBA is, it's in a mall. Like there's a Chipotle right next to it. So,
Mhm.
and like I don't know about the Football Hall of Fame, but I know the Hockey Hall of Fame is a little bit smaller. And I've been to the Softball Hall of Fame, which like I don't know. It's just like it looks like a truck stop. Like it's just so small. But Cooperstown is like my favorite. It's the best. Like even if I wasn't a baseball fan, it'd still be my favorite. But anyways, I digress. Uh, so we will bring you a lot of coverage of different baseball things. And Anthony, any Mets games or any games that you go to, we'll keep you updated. And we will see you soon, baseball fans. Come back soon for another walk off episode. We will see you soon. Thank you for joining us. All right.